All right, here we go. Game number 4 for the Big Red. This is the big one. This is Nebraska and Oklahoma. It's Nick Handley alongside Austin Oerman. It is our Nick Handley Show pregame coverage here. And Austin, I always thought we would be talking about this game at the very least. And this even goes back to the August 27th Northwestern game after Nebraska slipped up, thinking, okay, you got 2 weeks to get right. Give us reason to believe that Nebraska can sort of do what we not only hope, but what we think they could do, because we've seen it. We've seen in the last 2 weeks that Nebraska has been able to improve. They've been able to kind of learn their lessons from that Northwestern loss, and they were able to, we could chalk that up to, what? There were a lot of new faces. There were a lot of things that weren't in place. And so let's get to that 2-1 mark. Let's look at this game as objectively as we can, but be able to say, hey, I've seen tangible reason to believe that Nebraska's got a shot in this game against Oklahoma. Never. And I don't even care who the most pessimistic Nebraska fan out there is. Nobody thought 1-2 going into Oklahoma and no Scott Frost.
How many Nebraska haters even thought that?
None. And if you did, I'm sorry, you're lying. You're the guy who said, I called the 16 over the 1 seed. I called UMBC. I called that. Or I had all of those 15s upsetting the 2 seed. That's all it is. Nobody saw this happening. When we projected the season, a lot of us thought, 2-1 is possible. A lot of us thought that the matchup, the way it is, could still heavily favor Oklahoma. But nobody thought you're going into the Oklahoma game with an interim head coach, with a 1-2 record. But I mean, this is the reality. This is where we are. And the last time that we talked on this platform, we were talking about it on Sunday with the official news that Scott Frost had been removed as head coach from Trev Alberts. But here we are. I mean, this is the reality for Nebraska. So the big question is, all right, what now? 9 games left. What now?
When we saw Nebraska lose to Northwestern, we asked the question, okay, what's the biggest game left on the schedule? When is that biggest game that could be the turning point in the season that could tell us everything we need to know about this team? I said it was going to be probably that Purdue game or that Minnesota game. You said it was Rutgers, but we had Tom Chattel on the show and he wrote about it and he said Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're here now. Nowhere in that column when he said Oklahoma was the biggest game left on the schedule did he envision a world without Scott Frost as the head coach or Nebraska at 1-2. And that, I think, Nick, is part of the bummer about the way things went down, because at least to me, so much of the air feels sucked out of the game. It doesn't feel like nearly as big a game, at least to me, anymore, because maybe it can spark something, but the odds of it sparking something in this team are so low. Dropping to 1-3 makes it a tough climb to bowl eligibility. I know there's not the native son hired to be head coach, I guess, at the helm. It's harder for me to see this as that celebration of the rivalry and harder for it to feel like a potential turning point or a big win for the program, at least for me. Maybe it could be, but the fact that we're here is stunning in and of itself.
Today, for me, and we've talked about this a lot this week, and I know you've been kind of reserved on it. I've been more pushing this. And so, if you want to set the record straight, now that we're not in the same studio and you're afraid that I'm going to try to throw a haymaker at you that I would miss, and you'd probably be able to sweep the leg anyway. I've been watching Cobra Kai. I can't help it.
Couldn't tell.
That I've been all about the fun part of this. And I'm not, and I want to suggest that it's fun that Scott Frost got fired. It's fun that the program is where it is right now. There's nothing fun about that, but you have no other choice right now. There's 9 games left to go. College football season is just getting started. Conference play, we haven't even really got fully into that yet. I mean, some teams have, like Nebraska, have dipped their toes into conference play, but we're not even there yet. So I refuse to look at the remainder of this college football season and say, all right, let's just get to the end of the year so we can figure out who's going to lead this thing and figure out what it could look like in years to come. There's just too much in front of Nebraska right now. There's too much still into this season. And if this is going to be fun, it's got to start today. I think that it can be fun. Now, I don't want people who are maybe hearing this for the first time to sort of misread my definition of fun, or the way that I'm using it in this example, to all of a sudden say, hey, Nebraska goes 9-0, man. They're gonna freaking run the table with Mickey Joseph, he's gonna be the former Husker quarterback that could get it right. Yeah, no, nothing like that. I feel for so many people involved in the decision that was made on Sunday, the decision that had to be made, the correct decision. You can talk to me about $7.5 million all you want. National writers can dwell on that all they want to. It tells you how truly bad things were. It also tells you that this thing and what Trev Alberts decided to do is try to do his very best to salvage this season. That's why he pegged Mickey Joseph. You take a guy that is a position coach, a guy that seems to have, sort of climbed the ladder, and a guy that's on staff that probably has a strong connection. That's not to say Eric Chinander doesn't have a connection with these guys. Travis Fisher doesn't have a connection with these guys. Sean Beckton doesn't have a connection with these guys, because they all do. They all do. But Mickey Joseph's in that sort of very unique spot to where he can step away from his duties as the wide receiver coach. He can look at it more as a CEO role, and he can have everybody else do their job. Coaches do their job, players do their job, hold them accountable, because there's enough games in the season to where you can still, you still got 2 bye weeks to try to manage through and try to implement any type of, scheme change if you want to, tweaks here and there, and see if it works. The point is, there's still time. This isn't, in my opinion, a fool's errand for Mickey Joseph of, all right, just go out there and do what you can. This was strategic, in my opinion. This is a great opportunity for Mickey Joseph. I still think that the odds are not with him as far as getting this job, but he's got as good of an opportunity in a situation where he gets to actually give you the best job interview of how he can lead this particular team in this particular environment. So that's great. The fun part of it is that I bring up is these guys are able to just, I've said it a lot, and I've used the term, kind of have that collective breath. The program, the fans, everybody. We all know. We all know Scott Frost. We know the status of his job. It's not something that we're going to have to wonder, okay, well, they lost to Oklahoma. Are they going to do it during the bye week? Boy, you're really close to that buyout dropping. Do you still wait until October 1st? Boy, if they show up against Oklahoma and they beat Indiana, do you want to keep Scott? Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. The players don't have to worry about that. They know who is there and who isn't there. They know they still got a big, long season in front of them. And so I just feel like they can breathe, they can relax. That elephant in the room has been eliminated, like we've talked about so many times. And to me, that can lead to an energy that can be really fun to watch. It might lead to 1 win. It might lead to 7 wins or none. I don't know, but it can still be a fun product to where you tune in or you show up every Saturday to watch this team play. And it's a brand of football that you can get behind and at least enjoy the rest of the season and say, gosh, you know what? They went 3-9 again, but damn, that was fun. Because once we saw last Saturday's result, Austin, how many of us thought they could still pick up the pieces of this season and do enough to sort of satisfy what we hoped the expectations would be?
That's the longest of long shots after where we were last weekend. I am desperately hoping for this team to prove me wrong. I'm not going to check out. I'm not going to stop paying attention. I'm not going to, quit my job because, there's no head coach and this is the last.
Don't do that, man. I got to have you around, man. Come on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I wouldn't leave you out on that limb like that. But I'm still going to every week talk myself into, okay, here's the path for this team to win the game. Some weeks are going to be more likely than others, but ultimately at the end of the day, fun for me comes down to, winning. Are they able to steal some games? Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
If I'm able to separate the result from the game itself, sure, there can be a lot of fun in there. Like last week's game against Georgia Southern was an entertaining, well-played offensive football game. Like I can admit that. But at my core, I'm still a Husker fan. And if I have to say, oh, that was fun, and they still lost to a Sun Belt team, that's not great. I mean, it would be more understandable for it to be a fun week if, say, they find a way somehow to beat Georgia Southern. They're 2-1, but Trev Alberts still isn't, inspired by what he's seen, and Scott Frost is still let go. Okay, it would be more fun for me to see a 45-42 game against Oklahoma, who's in the top 10, who we played close last year. And hey, this was exciting. The offense looks like it's legit. They did it against, top 10, top 15 level talent. But then at the end of the day, they still lose the game. And last week, they still lose the game. So no, the season isn't over from a wins and losses standpoint. They're only one game under 500. I mean, we're barely into May if we're in a baseball season at this point. So it's not like there's not time for this to turn around. But I was the one who drank the Kool-Aid. You had more of the sludge in our preseason predictions.
But I had 7, and that does not look good.
It doesn't, but you didn't have 8 like I did. So I was the guy hoping against hope this would be the team that figured it out, the year they figured it out, that this would be fun, that they would get enough done to get over that hump, at least in some form or fashion. At this point, they got to prove it to me. Like I said, I'm not going to talk myself out of a path to this team winning any game. We look at the pieces, especially on the offensive side, and there's enough talent. Nebraska could win some shootouts, but we haven't seen Nebraska play the style consistently to force teams into their style of game because of that lack of identity that's really plagued this program for the last 4 years. So for me, fun just has a different meaning, and I'm going to try to take it more week by week.
Fun to me also has what we see play out almost every weekend in college football. And that's where we get romantic about the sport. When we were at Horseman's Park yesterday, I was talking to one of the workers. She had come up to me after the show and she said, I didn't get a chance to hear what your prediction for the game was. So what do you think? And I kind of smiled at her and I said, I don't know if you're going to like hearing this, but I went 45-27 Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma keeps Nebraska sort of at arm's length, where Nebraska will give you some moments that are exciting, but it's always going to kind of feel like Oklahoma is never truly threatened. But what I told her that, I said, now, that's what my head and that's what my brain is telling me. That's what I've seen from this team in 3 games. And this is what I've seen sort of from afar from Oklahoma in 2 games, that I just feel from a matchup standpoint, the Jimmies and Joes, that's what I come to. That's the number I come to. Now, here's where sports is fun. Here's where we get romantic about college sports, pro sports, high school sports, is you just get those moments where it seems like everything, and I'm not trying to Rocky speech you here, but we get to those moments where it just seems so obvious that the outcome is going to be what I just maybe described right there. And yet we walk away from that game thinking, wow, I can't believe Nebraska, to use this as an example, pulled off that upset. And then we kind of stop ourselves and we're like, happens all the time. These kind of things happen all the time. Nebraska is not so short of talent that they can't match up there. There are just obvious weaknesses that this team is going to have to mask defensively. But what type of energy does this team bring today? That, to me, that's the X factor. And I think you and I both agree they're going to come out on fire. They're going to come out feeling like they've got the ultimate chip on their shoulder, yet they feel loose. There's freedom in how they're approaching this game. I think that that's a weapon. I think that that is something that you can use to your advantage. But at what point does that sort of wear off and they have to become football players? They have to use their actual ability and not just momentum or any type of adrenaline from the week or from the situation itself, but actually have to dig in as college football players and go toe to toe with some very talented players from Oklahoma. And can they do that late into this game? Because again, as we've seen, name the sport, name the level of sport, we've seen less talented teams pull off the upset. We've seen teams that have had to make a coaching change or make a significant change or seemingly completely distracted, that it just doesn't seem like they're going to be able to dig in and get anything done. And then they do, and we're stunned. Yet then we think that this happens all the time. Why are we so surprised? So that's the sports romantic in me that thinks, yeah, of course, this could happen because it happens every week. The question is, can it happen in Nebraska?
That's my question.
Exactly. And it's not something you can point to and be like, well, this is why. And again, I'm going to give you the matchup and this is how it's going to play out. Yeah, sure. We could see a shootout, but we got to, at some point, the defense going to have to make a stop, right? Can they make a stop? I don't think they can.
Next will be the first.
But can Oklahoma stop themselves? Yeah, it's possible. So that's what I'm getting at. As far as the matchup itself, I can't go there. But what we've seen time and time again when it comes to sports, it's why we tune in. Nebraska can be one of those fun weekend stories, those fun Saturday stories. And then you've got the bye week to where you can let that just sort of soak in and have some fun with it. And then, you know what? We'll get to that Indiana game when we get to it. But this fan base, this team, more than anything, this team needs that moment more than any college football team I can think of right now.
Absolutely. The can it happen to Nebraska question is the only thing that's really holding me back from, going more into where you are. The metaphor we've been using all week is the hands up the whole way on the roller coaster.
Yeah, the roller coaster, baby. You're
Right.
not holding on. You're just enjoying it the whole time.
And see, I'm a holder honor. That's what I am on roller coasters. And that's kind of where I am right now, because yes, we see it every week. I mean, last week was a fantastic example of it. Look what the Sun Belt did, to not just Nebraska, but teams across the country, teams that are supposedly in better positions than Nebraska. Mm-hmm. It happens for other teams. Nick, I haven't seen it happen to Nebraska. Like, the closest thing I think I can point to for that would be that 2015 Michigan State win. I think we can say that happened.
Yep.
The team played loose, played free. I mean, heck, they were down double digits, late third, early fourth quarter.
They just got whacked by Purdue the week before. That was that horrible Purdue game the week before.
Yep, they did. The Riker-Fife game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the only time in my Husker fandom I can point to saying Nebraska did that. And I wish I could believe that it was going to happen. But instead of having that belief, I'm just hoping for it more so than I'm confident that it's going to happen. And again, like I led off saying, I desperately hope the team proves me wrong. I desperately hope that they show me that I can let go, that I can enjoy the rest of the season for what it is, that I can respect the guys, not just playing out the string, but playing their butts off while they play out the string. But I've got to see it, and it has to start tomorrow.
When we think of this game and with Nebraska and Oklahoma and the matchup and everything about that we can touch on here in a moment too, when I also kind of look at where Oklahoma is, and I mentioned this on the show a couple times this week, was the one thing that Oklahoma is fearing out of Nebraska. It's not going to Memorial Stadium, because far less teams have gone to Memorial Stadium and beat Nebraska. It's not fearing their defense. Maybe a year ago you respected their defense. This year I think you are licking your chops if you're Oklahoma. So it's not that. I mean, the offense might have Oklahoma's defense's attention, but nothing that they're probably, not equipped to handle. Their biggest fear, and they wouldn't admit it, but their biggest fear is the unknown of how Nebraska will come out. They just don't know where this team is. And that can be a powerful weapon for Nebraska. So, to me, that's something when we think of matchups in this game, that's the first thing that I think Oklahoma is probably really interested in seeing. I think they're expecting a big fight from Nebraska, but I think until you actually get a taste for it, you just don't know. And is a team that is desperate like Nebraska to get a win, to just get something for this team to feel good about. Do they play like that? Meaning you see a couple of trick plays, you see a couple of different schemes defensively. We heard Mickey Joseph talking about a couple of schematic changes that they're going to go defensively. He didn't want to elaborate on that Thursday night on Sports Nightly, but which we understand. But he yanked black shirts, and okay, cool, that's symbolic and whatnot. But is that going to make guys tackle better? I don't know. But there are different things that I think Mickey Joseph is trying to implement. And then, of course, you're saying, well, how much can you really do in 3 or 4 days of preparation? Well, probably not much, but can you do enough to have these guys fully bought in and excited about the game plan itself? This whole reset, this whole clean slate. Are the players buying into that, where they can carry that for 4 quarters today? That's one of the more intriguing things about today's game.
It's the challenge, and it's the biggest question, because it's hard to think that, one guy could make that big a difference in the psyche of a program and the approach, as it leads up to game day. But maybe we're here today and we see that. Maybe it really was that Scott Frost and his approach, his attitude either didn't get guys fired up enough or drained them. Maybe that's the case. Maybe Mickey Joseph is just that much better as a relator as a communicator, as a preparer for getting the guys ready to go. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that one guy could have inflicted that much, cumulative emotional harm. But again, maybe it could, given all the baggage we talked about early in the week, given the circumstances that, got Scott Frost here to begin with, and then where we ended up on Sunday. So maybe that is the case. And if Mickey Joseph is able to take all the emotions that team has to be feeling right now, not just, each individual, because that'd be a lot of work for Mickey and all the position coaches. I mean, I know they're talking to their guys. Their doors are always open, like we heard Mickey say, but to be able to sit down with every one of those guys and have an individualized plan for how to handle this, what their role is, if that's changed at all, that's a tall task in only 1 week. But if Mickey Joseph, and we heard that he sat down with the captains and Casey Thompson, which I really like, to go over a new vision for the team. If Mickey Joseph and those 5 guys have their finger on the pulse of this team and can find the right message that hits all those right notes to get this team on the same page, get this team working together as one, then that's a huge testament to Mickey Joseph, the staff, and those 5 guys for knowing the team and stepping up to the plate and getting the team ready on a week like this.
From the matchup, and this is no, football nerd part of this thing, I think everybody knows what we're about to talk about. Nebraska's best chance in this game is Nebraska's offense and what it's shown. Nebraska winning in a shootout. And what I do think, Oklahoma's defense, it's been good so far. It hasn't been tested. You haven't had a good offense. This will be the best offense that Oklahoma has played, which I'm very confident saying. It's not saying much considering who they've played, but look, they've taken care of business. They've got a nation leading 23 tackles for loss in 2 games. That's pretty damn good. So say what you will about their competition, but they've done exactly what they're supposed to be doing. There are going to be chances that this defense takes against Casey Thompson. This defense, some of these guys that have played on that side of the football have played against Casey Thompson too. So they're going to try to utilize what they know about him, his tendencies and whatnot, but they're going to blitz. They're going to put more pressure on Casey than he's seen the 3 previous games. And as much as we know that that's problematic with this offensive line, especially if Teddy Prohaska is a no-go, which it sounds like that very well could be the case. Maybe we see Kevin Williams with an expanded role for Nebraska, whatever the case is, that spells trouble to me. But it also, when I think of where Nebraska was the 2 previous years and where they can be in this matchup, I actually get excited for that opportunity given Casey's poise in the pocket. Casey's been under pressure the entire season so far. But he's the one quarterback. I got to probably go all the way back to Zach Taylor, who has actually looked very confident and very comfortable in the pocket, even when guys are at his feet. And he doesn't bail out. He commits to the very last moment of what he's trying to do. And this is where I also feel Nebraska's in a much better spot than they have been in previous years. You've got Trey Palmer, you've got Marcus Washington. Those guys are building chemistry. Oliver Martin had a little bit of a role last week too. I still think Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda is a target and is a weapon. I think Travis Vokalek is a go today as well. Those things and those types of players are legitimate playmakers. And so blitz all you want. Nebraska is going to be seeing that in preparation. Casey Thompson, who works tirelessly in studying a defense, is going to understand that for every chance and in every gamble that Oklahoma decides to roll with, they're going to have a huge opportunity for a big play. If you're looking at something objectively on how Nebraska can at least make this game competitive, that's it right there.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of opportunity for big play than we've seen through the first 3 games. A lot of what we've seen for the big plays from Nebraska so far are in the running game. It's been Anthony Grant's first read is kind of clogged up, so he's able to use those happy feet and that jump cut, get outside and break something off. If Nebraska's going to be able to run the ball successfully against Oklahoma's blitzes, it's going to be kind of the same issue we've seen from Nebraska, where 2 guys are stacked in one gap, running back reads it, goes to the hole where there's not a guy, is able to make that one cut and go.
Cutbacks too. Yeah,
absolutely. And then in the passing game, we've seen a lot of Casey Thompson in the pocket. The offensive line has been generally fine. Oklahoma's averaging 4 sacks a game right now. They've got 8 through 2 games. If they get to 4, that's a problem. Plain and simple. Nebraska doesn't win if Oklahoma gets to 4 sacks, unless Nebraska answers. But I don't know if we've seen that from the Nebraska pass rush that would lead me to think that's even possible in any way right now. So because of that, how do we see other teams combat Nebraska's pass rush? Again, it hasn't really been there, but quick passing. That's what North Dakota did. It's what Georgia Southern did a lot of the time when Nebraska sent pressure. So that same opportunity is there for Nebraska. The game plan doesn't change just because of the names on the front of the jerseys. So instead of having Casey Thompson being able to sit in the pocket, go through reads 1, 2, 3, back to 1, okay, 2's breaking open, here I go, throw. It's going to be more of those quick routes, those 3-step and cut, those 5-7 step and cut. Casey's hitting, the back step of his drop, releasing, and then it's on the playmakers to make plays. I think Casey could have a higher completion percentage in this game and more yards after catch rather than more yards in the air. This is a game where if Oklahoma is going to send that pressure, like we think they will, if you're a receiver, you break one tackle, that might be it. You might have nothing but green grass ahead of you, or there might only be, one guy back deep instead of another full level of defenders there. So big plays can be there, but this really relies on Casey Thompson relying on that poise in the pocket and continuing to hit guys in stride to give them chances to break those tackles.
I don't mean to bring up a sensitive topic for Nebraska when we were actually, for the most part, very tickled to death on what we saw from a performance standpoint last year in Norman. But we know it came down to, stop me if you heard this before, a one-score game, but remember how brutal PAT's field goals were in that game. Do you feel Nebraska's in a much better spot?
And
I'm with you. I can stop you right there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to be able to say, yeah. I can't say that.
But I can't. Yeah, as much as I want to say yes, I, in good conscience, cannot say yes.
No. We just, like, I don't even hold them accountable for the field goal that was missed against Georgia Southern at the end of regulation, because that's, 50 plus. Okay.
And the other one was Brendan Frankie, but still, it's still special teams. It's still missing and leaving points out on the field.
Right. But I mean, in a high leverage situation, are you making your PATs? Yeah. Okay. Nebraska's doing that. Are you able to kick the 45 to 35 yard field goals? It hasn't been automatic. We'll just say that. So if this thing came down to that, say we're lined up for a 42 yard field goal to win the game or to tie it, my knees are buckling, dude. Like I want to feel better on what I've seen, and yet it gives me the willies still.
I would probably be just right over the trash can. I wouldn't even be watching. Yeah. I mean, heck, even last week's, I can admit, my head was in my hands. I was trying to judge it based off the reaction of the crowd. And I heard the little bit of the roar when they heard it had they saw it had the leg, but I knew better than to look up because of Nebraska's special teams. And of course it ends up fading, just left. So no, I can't say I trust the kicking game that much. I mean, Brian Buschini has been good.
Yeah, but he's been good.
But if Nebraska's punting a lot, I think that spells trouble. It means the offense hasn't lived up to its part, and believing in this defense is a struggle. And we're still getting nothing out of the return game. Yeah. Nothing. I mean, do we have any returns out of Trey Palmer or Oliver Martin or even Isaiah Garcia Castaneda past the 30-yard line? No. I can't think of one offhand, and that's a problem. Those are plays that can, flip field if the offense is struggling. That's a play that can reward your defense. They get a stop, they force a punt, and you keep that momentum rolling by getting a return like that. We just haven't seen enough improvement to even average. It's just been still nothing.
Do you expect, because I kind of do, I think there's going to be an aggressive approach defensively. And again, I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to shut stuff down. Do you expect more man?
I hope so. In this case, what other option do you have? Because we've seen the zone get picked apart. And at this point,
I think it's going to happen.
If Quint Newsome and Tommy Hill are some of the best athletes on the team, if Marquise Buford is playing the way he is, then yeah, absolutely man up. And if that means, if you're playing man, though, that means you have to be sending more pressure, plain and simple. You have to trust your corners to man up on the outside, your safeties a little bit over the middle, and take your shots at getting home.
Prediction: Henrich plays as well.
Oh, okay.
I think he does. I think Nick Henrich is in too. I think they're all in.
With the JoJo Club?
The JoJo Club, I think Prohaska is definitely iffy. I'd be almost really surprised if he did play in this one, knowing that you do have a bye week coming up. But yeah, I think Vokalek and Henrich, from what I understand, Vokalek could have gone last week, but they decided to give him one more week. I think he's going to be as close to 100% as possible. Nick Henrich, yeah, I think he's going to try to gut it out with the protective cast on the hand. So We'll see what that does defensively with Henrich in there. Does that make him more susceptible to missing tackles because you don't have that hand to grip? Well, yeah, I mean, sure. But again, how could it be any worse?
Not like Hausman and Maga Clements were necessarily tackling machines in his absence.
Right. And so even having a guy like Nick Henrich on the field, I mean, that can lift you. Like there's little things that I think could be present for this defense that can at least give them some type of confidence. But that first drive that Oklahoma has where they make it look a little bit more elementary, and it's going to happen. They're going to have one of those drives. Where's this defense at after that? Can they live dangerously for a while and maybe get away with it? And then Oklahoma makes them pay. And then how do they respond? Like all of that stuff, like, does that then open the floodgates? That's kind of where I'm at with this defense, where sure, they can maybe hide a couple of things here and there, but at what point when they give up the big play or give up the big drive, will they be able to overcome that or not?
We saw it all last year. We haven't seen it this year. And this is where I think the offense being able to respond to that bad drive by the defense will be huge for the defense. If the offense can, take 3 or 4 minutes off the clock to score, I mean, yeah, big plays and long touchdowns are always fun. But if the defense gives up a drive like that, that's where I think it's important to not get less aggressive, but do everything in your power to give your defense a chance to regroup, to give Henrich and Reimer a chance to talk to the guys on the defensive side of the ball, to say, hey, guys, we're good. Look at our offense. It's moving right down on the field. They're going to punch it in for 6 here. Timmy's going to kick the extra point. Then we get a chance to make up for what just happened. And when we say make up for what just happened, it doesn't mean go do someone else's job. It means go do your job better than you did every snap than the last drive.
So I'm trying to remember your score. I said I got OU 45, Nebraska 27. What was yours again?
I said 49-38 Sooners.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So you've got to push.
I do.
You've got to push. Okay. I'd love it. If Nebraska puts up 38, man, I'd love it. I really would. Here's the other question. If the unthinkable happens today, is it okay to storm the field?
Is it okay?
Not you and I. I'm not saying you and I are going to bust down there and storm the field. I'm talking about the fans. Is it okay?
I guess I would prefer to not see it, but also who am I to, play referee at this point? If the fans decide that they need it, I can't say I'm well versed enough to be the voice of the fans. So while I myself wouldn't do it unless I was down there swept up in the moment, if that's what it comes to, I'm not going to stop anybody. I'm not going to scold them on Monday.
I love it. Our buddy Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio said something even funny on that point about, the fans might be down there and Trev Alberts might be joining them on a goalpost.
Right. I mean, Trev and Andrew and Sioux City are the ones on the goalpost.
Right. Like he deserves it, right? I mean, anybody who's been in this football office, more than a year and endured last year, and in Trev's case had to make the decision that he did, and his fan base, like, you know what? I'm normally like, act like you've been there before, but for this, you know what? Go nuts, have fun. If it were to happen, and again, sports fantasy today, meaning it probably doesn't have more than a 10% chance, but there still is a chance. If it does happen, go nuts, have fun, because you got another week to enjoy it. You can be drunk for an entire week before you actually have to get to work and get prepared for another team after the bye week. So again, have at it, go nuts. Hell, the players, if you guys want to hang from the goalpost too, feel free. These
Let's
kids
get some DJ Cool blasting while they do it.
Yes, absolutely. They need something so good to happen to them right now. I mean, I cannot, and yes, maybe we're biased, but I cannot think of a college football program that just needs something good to happen, and maybe today can present that moment.
Had Kansas beat Texas. So
yeah, they did.
Is this Nebraska's opportunity to do that?
Just the bad omen is Casey was on the bad end of that.
Well, yeah, there is that.
But Lance
Look
Leipold,
at us comparing Nebraska to Kansas.
But new Nebraska football coach Lance Leipold led that victory. So, have I mentioned two head coach? I said Chris Kleiman.
Yeah, yesterday towards the end of the show, you said Chris Kleiman. Yeah. So I can't tell where your head's at anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. future Nebraska head coach Brian Ferentz and his Iowa offense. Now I'm getting a little out of control. That's
too much Kool-Aid. Put it down, please.
It is, man. It's early. All right, Nebraska and Oklahoma. 11 a.m. is your kickoff. You can catch the game right on AM590. Husker game day pregame coverage 7 a.m. You might be actually watching us after game day or pregame coverage began, but 7 a.m. on the AM590. AM590 Omaha app and AM590 ESPN Omaha. You can also hear it on Star 104.5 HD2 and over on our sister station Z92. Austin, I will see you there, my friend. Look forward to this one. And again, let's have some fun with this. Hopefully it's just fun. That's all we can hope for right now. And we'll see where they take this.
Absolutely. A little water to, flush that Kool-Aid through your system before you drive. So get down here safely and we'll watch a football game.
What are you trying to imply here? You think I've been boozing since 5 a.m.?
It's a sugar high, Nick. It's a sugar high.
It is. I know you're the Kool-Aid drinker, yet apparently I'm on it right now. So, all right, man, we'll see you soon. And again, enjoy the game. 11 a.m. your kickoff, Huskers, Sooners, renewed old rivalry. Let's have some fun with it.